All right. Welcome, everyone, to our April Marketing and Market Research Tableau user group. We've got a fun session today. Going to kick it off with meeting a community member, and we're going to talk about Tableau Conference sessions that we are excited about. And then our feature presentation, how to do cool stuff in Tableau with the Flerlage Twins. And if you stick around, then we're going to have some networking as well. So just a quick say, hey, this is who we are as the leadership team. So I'm Josh Wilson. I'm an independent consultant. I focus on market research analytics, and I often use Tableau to do things like analyzing survey data. Sharon, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Sharon here. I'm also an independent consultant offering end-to-end data analytics services. And yeah, glad to be here today. Excited.
Sarah.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Sarah Pallett. I'm a Tableau consultant with Argano. Work in a number of different industries, including marketing, healthcare, insurance. And I come from an advertising background. I used to work in media buying and planning before making the shift into data.
Hi there. I'm Luigi Ciccieri. I'm Vice President of Operations at Direct Avenue. We're a linear television and CTV media buying agency. So Sarah has a little background in that, and I oversee our operations, and I'm the primary Tableau dashboard author here. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you coming out to my hometown next week, and looking forward to seeing everybody.
Yeah. Luigi's awaiting all of us to descend on his city next week. Cool. So just a quick plug here. We usually do announcements at the end when everybody is left. So I want to just put this up front. We have a Slack group if you would like to join and hear about when we're going to be holding future events, and if you have any other questions, getting stuck on something with Tableau related, then feel free to join our Slack group with that QR code there. And also, if you want to present at a future meeting, definitely let us know. We're always looking for presenters. Just a quick plug. So typically at these meetings, we have a few people step in and introduce yourselves. So if you're interested to just step in and say hi, maybe you haven't attended before, then feel free to volunteer, and we'll ask you a few quick questions. I guess you can either come off mute or raise your hand.
Hey, Josh, this is Ryan Corser.
Hey, Ryan.
I work for Vanderbilt, and I'm an institutional research analyst there in the IR office there. And that's where I have been getting my Tableau experience. But before that, I was a postdoc at Owen, the business school at Vanderbilt. So I'm familiar with marketing and market research, and sort of have a psychology background there. And or the last one, I'm sort of locking in on the stacked bar graphs and doing some trends over time. That's sort of what we look at a lot. But struggling with, I guess, just remembering where everything is in Tableau. I feel like sometimes I have a working cheat sheet that's getting longer and longer to remind me of places to go.
Same. I can totally relate with that. I have my own cheat sheet that I go and I like, what I know I saw this somewhere, and then, you know, if I don't find it there, then I have to go and search, and then there's all these little things that you use, you know, once in a while that are helpful tricks. Cool. Well, thanks for stepping up, and glad you're here.
Oh yeah. Sharon was saying share my cheat sheet. Happy to do so, as long as you can make through the like it works for me, but maybe you can improve upon it too.
All right, let's do it.
Absolutely. Great. Anyone else like to step in?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is James Christie. I work for Northwell Health as a senior systems analyst, which basically says nothing about what I do there. Hey, Luigi. I started with Tableau probably about 1.5 years ago and just started building metrics from a project management perspective to drive percentage complete to higher numbers. So with all the data that we had, you know, we would also factor in percent complete, and then, you know, leadership as well as management and the actual teams can say, okay, this is where we're at. What is our accountability to this? Where do we need to push a little bit harder? Because we were on tight deadlines. And that was kind of the start. Right now, I'm working with Department of Health reports, so we can basically see the number of errors that we're getting in our hospitals and basically work towards tying that into the correct teams to address those errors. And then again, forcing those to completion. So my dashboard started out really, really simple. And now, you know, I've definitely found fun with filtering and making sure that the users have the ability to edit their own data and or slice the data the way they want to see it. And you know, I'm kind of looking for a new project, some kind of new data. So I'll tend to jump onto Tableau Public and get some inspiration from some of the dashboards that are shared there. And that's kind of how I've been working. If I find something I really like, I try to I look at the dashboard that's available, try to download it and see how it was constructed, and then wind up Googling how to do specifically one thing for like hours and hours until I can do it.
Yep.
That's all.
Also very relatable.
Sounds familiar.
I will say I've been using ChatGPT more and more, and it's not too bad at Tableau. I use it to help me with formulas, and sometimes it's good with that sort of like Google searching, like how do you do this? There's every once in a while it can come up with something pretty cool.
Agreed.
Right. Thanks, James. We can take maybe one more person. Yeah.
Cool. So, hi, everyone. My name is Brian Kreinbrink. I work for Fathom Digital Marketing, which is a marketing agency out of Cleveland, Ohio, about a little under 100 people. I am the sole admin and developer for the agency. So essentially, I'm kind of working with the paid media groups around like aggregating all of their data and combining it into dashboards for either for clients or for internal work. Currently in the process of rolling out like Tableau Pulse for insight generation and some other things there. So I've kind of been working in the BI space for the last 10 years, but started with Cognos, went to MicroStrategy, and specifically in Tableau now for probably the last 3 or 4 years. Aspects I'm good at, really good at the visual side of things, usually tend to struggle more when it gets to like crazy calculations and like year to date, month to date, those types of calculations. But kind of like what you said, Josh, ChatGPT is amazing for those things. So it's kind of been helping me out a lot on that end.
Yep. Yeah. It's cool that you're using Tableau Pulse. You're the first person I've heard that's just, you know, ready to get using. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear how it goes for you.
Yeah, we do a lot of reporting around our just kind of like clients. Like we work with big hospitals and education networks, and so our monthly reporting is all like insight generation for the strategists, like putting that type of stuff into like PowerPoints and things. So it's been a bit of a process of combining Tableau with Rollstack to do like automated report generation in like Google Slides and PowerPoint. But I think Tableau Posts will be really cool in terms of seeing if it can help those strategists just kind of generate insights very quickly and reduce the speed of that process. So should be rolling that out and hopefully next week or so. So
very cool. Awesome. Great to hear from you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. In the interest of time, we've got a packed agenda. We're going to keep moving forward. So next up, we have Sarah, who's going to feel free to take over sharing. She's going to tell us some of the sessions that we're interested in at Tableau Conference this year. And you can see here's a promo code. So anyone who's still on the fence, thinking about going, you can get 35% off with this code.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh. Now the share screen icon is disabled for me. So
all right, let's see if I stop sharing.
There we go. Now I can share. Perfect. Thank you. Great. Beautiful. So we'll just go. Here we go. All right. So as Josh was saying, there is still time to register if you're thinking about attending in person. It's happening next week in San Diego, Monday through Wednesday. There is the ability to pick up your badge early on Sunday if you roll into town with enough time. And then there's also some training boot camp things that happen later in the week, Thursday and Friday. But generally, the main event is Monday through Wednesday. And it's a really great opportunity to network and to learn in community. There's a lot of sessions that are led by community members. There's the Data Village with booths, so you can go around and have a look. And last year I was able to attend in person for the first time, and I just came away so inspired. It was just a really positive experience. We've included a link here. Sarah Bartlett every year writes a blog post with some tips, things you might want to know before you go. So we can drop that in the chat. So the schedule for the first 3 days, the Monday through Wednesday, is jam-packed. As you can see on Monday, there are a lot of sessions happening and the hands-on training. The Data Village is going to be open all 3 days this year, which is excellent. And then I'll draw your attention to Tuesday. Tuesday's the big day. We've got our main keynote session happening Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. And then also Iron Viz, which is always a tremendous showcase, is happening later in the day on Tuesday. And those are both going to be live stream, I believe. So if you're attending virtually, you'll be able to catch those. And I should mention, if you're not able to come in person, register for the virtual sessions. It is free. A lot of there will be a lot of sessions that will be put onto the Salesforce website, so you'll be able to tune in for those. Tuesday night is Data Night Out, which is always a fun time. And then on Wednesday, there's the Tableau True to the Core session, where there'll be some Tableau product managers on the stage, and there'll be an opportunity for asking questions and getting answers straight from them. So one of the really cool things about Tableau Conference is, as I mentioned, the networking and getting to know other community members. There's a number of meetups that have been scheduled. Some of them are industry-based, so there's a healthcare one, for example, or education. And then others are community interest-based. So, for example, we have Data Pride or Data Plus Women. If this is your first Tableau conference, I do recommend Monday morning at, I believe it's 9 a.m. There's a first timers or a newbies meetup. And I heard that there's going to be breakfast at that one. So that's definitely a good one to check out. Next up, we put together a few slides here just to highlight some of the sessions that we think are going to be really great. On Monday, there's going to be an embedded analytics session, and the topic is you know, a really important one. It's all around school safety, so highly recommend that one. Also on Monday morning, I'll be presenting, I'll be demonstrating a technique that uses maps and background images. So I'd love it for those of you that'll be there in person to swing by and say hello. We also listed a few others here, predicting churn if you're looking for getting insight into customer churn. And then of course, Ken and Kevin are presenting in person on Monday and I believe Wednesday. And that one will also be available virtually. And then last but not least, on Monday, Felicia Steyer will be sharing her Tableau tips. And she's just really great at communicating those. And so I think that'll be a fun session as well. Looking ahead to Tuesday, Tableau has identified 3 sessions in particular that have a marketing focus. The first one that I've listed here at 1 o'clock is a Sony use case, and it's all about data culture and Tableau Pulse. The next one by Nancy will be all about making your dashboards results driven and action oriented. And then the third one here by Lisa will be talking about the effective use of AI. In addition to those 3 marketing ones, on Tuesday, I would love to point out Dennis's session on maps. If you're interested in learning more about how to do mapping in Tableau, Dennis is your guy. And then next up, we have a Tableau prep session with David and Jared. And then also on Tuesday, another AI session to learn how to use AI tools such as ChatGPT. Okay, and then on Wednesday, there's a very popular community session called the Vizies. It's the Community Awards. And then we also have a session called You've Just Been to TC24 Now What, which is a really great jumping off point to take all the learnings that you've gathered and the networking that you've done at conference into the real world. And then last but not least, my colleague, Kim Unger, is going to be doing a session on reverse engineering a Tableau dashboard. And earlier, I believe it was James that mentioned, you know, downloading an existing dashboard off of Tableau Public and having a peek under the hood and seeing how you can leverage those techniques. Well, Kim Unger is going to show you how to do that. This slide here is just a quick list of just a few of the ones that will be available virtually. There are more than this available virtually, but I did want to bring your attention to these. Melody and Phil will be doing a Tableau Pulse one. Jennifer and Jade are leading the Tableau tip battle, which is always lively and fun. And then we have one called the Tortured Analyst Department, which is a play off of Taylor Swift's latest album. They're going to be talking about pain points in Tableau, so I'm sure there's going to be a few good takeaways from that. And then the last 2 on the list here, Kent will be doing one to share some tips for optimizing your dashboards, which we all love, right? We love dashboards that load well and perform well. And then last but not least, Sean Miller will be giving us some insights on how to build the right type of dashboard. Are you trying to explain or explore? So there we have it. Those are our session highlights. We really hope to connect with you next week in person. And if you're not able to attend, please do join virtually and tune in. So there we have it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Well, now we have our main event. So we have Ken and Kevin Flerlage here to do their signature presentation, how to do cool stuff in Tableau. Guys, take it away.
All right.
sharing my screen, and it does say Ken Flerlage on mine because, you know, I haven't been doing this remote thing for like 5 years yet, and I still couldn't find the invite. So, there's two Ken Flerlages, even though I'm Kevin. So, sharing, make sure. Can you see PowerPoint? Okay, folks.
We can, yes.
All right, perfect. So yeah, we're going to be doing how to do cool stuff in Tableau. If you didn't notice on that main page, it said 2024. So, you know, up to this point, we've been doing our 23 presentation. Today, we're going to give you a sneak preview. It's actually the full presentation of our 2024 presentation. They're recording it, but they won't be able to share this recording until after TC. So you'll be among the first to see that content. So hopefully it's good. So introductions. I am Kevin Flerlage. This is Ken Flerlage. We are identical twins. We run the website flerlagetwins.com. The last check, we were at 395 blog posts on that website across, I think, 9 years. And I think 390 of them are related to Tableau. We have a few on SQL and PowerPoint. That's about it. Together, we work together at Moxie Analytics. We're both consultants. Moxie Analytics is a team, a small but mighty team of 6. And Ken and I focus solely 100% on doing stuff related to Tableau. I'm a 5-time Tableau Visionary. I think that's one of like 33 in the world. And Ken is a Hall of Fame Visionary, one of 23 in the world. We do lots of stuff. We do data project work like building dashboards. We also do fractional data here, which is sort of like, hey, you can get us for, you know, 5-10 hours a week over a course of time. We also do Tableau Lifeline, which is you're stuck, you got a tricky problem, you can actually just schedule time with us online, and we can get on the phone for an hour, and hopefully we can resolve that. And we also do a bunch of different stuff with Tableau training. We do a beginner course. We have one coming up in May, just after the conference, I think middle or end of May. And yep, there it is, starting May 21st. And then we are introducing our advanced training, which is, there's lots of interest in that. We're going to probably be doing that in September. And there's going to be lots of advanced techniques like, you know, LODs and table calcs and advanced parameter actions and set actions and things like that. So check that out. You can go on our website and hold your spot. You don't have to pay, but you can hold your spot if you're interested in that. And then Moxie Analytics as a whole, we like to say we do data stuff for money. So lots of stuff related to data visualization, obviously, but literacy, support, governance, management, those kinds of things. Here's just a picture from us at in Las Vegas last year at the Tableau Conference. We were lucky enough to do a couple of sessions just like we're doing this year. And if you were there, or even if you saw it virtually, you probably remember us telling this silly story from the conference in 2022. And the story was about myself, Ken, and Serena. And we went on a walk and we were talking. It was just the three of us. And then the infamous ham sandwich incident, where Serena actually stepped on a ham sandwich and completely wiped out, looking like this in the street. Well, this saga actually continues at 2023. And what we were out walking we just weren't out for a random walk. We were actually on a quest to find this drink called a bramble, right? Okay, simple drink, doesn't seem like that hard to find, but in 2022, we never found it. So in 2023, we decided to set out and find it again. We had a few new people join us. Your host here, Josh, he was with us, as well as George Caceros and the Sarah Bartlett. So the 6 of us set out on this journey where we were walking. And then we made it to our first bar and we walked up and Serena said, "Hello, kind sir, 6 brambles, please." But unfortunately, we were greeted with a no. They weren't able to serve us. So we moved on and we asked, can you give us 6 brambles? And again, we were told no. And bar after bar after bar, we were told no, no, no. Until one kindly gentleman told us, hey, the problem is we're out of blackberries. We can't make a bramble without blackberries and they're not in season. So we thought, well, maybe if a bar doesn't have blueberries, or blackberries, excuse me, maybe a restaurant would. And we looked up and right next to us was the Hell's Kitchen. That's Gordon Ramsay's famous bar restaurant. It's literally right next door. So Serena went in by herself to ask this bartender, and she says, "Are you able to make a bramble?" And then the lady, the rando next door, said, he starts laughing at Serena and says, "Blackberries are out of season, silly." So Serena looks at her and says, "Let me educate you on the global supply chain." So 2 hours later, I think Serena was satisfied. That rando got lost. The bartender slid up to Serena and whispered in her ear about this bar. It's where all the bartenders go to. So it was the bartender's bar. When they get off work, they go to this particular bar. So they have to have good drinks, right? So we hopped in an Uber and we drove all 6 of us over there, and expecting to be disappointed, I walked in by myself and I said, me and Head, I said, "Is there any chance you can make a bramble?" And the guy pleasantly said, "Of course." So I said, "I'll take 6. So here's the 6 of us getting ready to enjoy our bramble cocktail. There's Josh and me and Ken and the rest of the crew. But there was a problem. I took one tiny sip and I started to feel a little bit ill. I hadn't drank much before that, but I started to feel a little ill. And I looked around the table and I saw other people not feeling so good, especially Serena. So Serena and I kind of went from, happy to a little not feeling right. But what we're ultimately afraid of is that this from 2022 would turn into this. What we ultimately found is that this bar, this bartender's bar, was famous for adding a certain ingredient into their drinks. That ingredient was absinthe. If anybody knows anything about absinthe, it's called the Green Fairy, and probably for a reason. Side effects are really common for absinthe. Most of these are made up, but the truth is this one is one of the most common side effects of absinthe is hallucinations. So I did not feel good for a couple of days after that one drink, and it was a wild night. But moral of the story is pretty simple. Hey, join us at Tableau Conference. Go out with us, and maybe you'll end up part of the our TC 25 presentation intro. All right, that's that. Let's move on to how to do cool stuff in Tableau. We're going to be doing a variety of tips, tricks, techniques. We're going to move fast. They're recording it, and they'll share after the conference. We're also going to be on demand at Salesforce. I mentioned in the chat that will be live streamed on Tuesday afternoon Pacific time, and we'll actually have an interview after that. But after that, it'll be available on demand. And then all the content that we're going to talk about today is available at flerlagetwins.com/coolstuff2024. You can get links to a bunch of different blog posts. And after the conference, we'll put our workbooks up there as well. Just want to say before we get going, thanks to an awesome community. There's lots of people either directly inspired these tips or just, we just are inspired by these people. And a lot of these tips came from these folks directly. So thank you to these people, plus many, many more. All right, we're going to jump to it. I'm going to jump into the first section, and then we'll pass it over to Ken for him to do two sections. I'm going to start off by something I call cool stuff to keep it simple, right? So let's assume we have this very simple data set. It's got an order number, and that's just numeric. And then we have this profit data. So if we want to visualize this, maybe I'd start by just throwing a dot strip plot out there. And that's okay. But I think one of the problems is, I think if I lasso this, there's like 20 marks all stacked right on top of each other. So what we could do is randomize that. And based on our data source, I'm able to just do this inline calculation of random, right? If we do that, then we kind of space these dots out, and I can kind of see the density of these dots right here, from 0 to 50. So that's nice. But the biggest problem with the random function is it's limited really to file-based data sources and extracts. If you ever switch this thing over to live, you're going to have a problem with that random function. So, and it tends to be that I run into this lack of random function all the time. So I tend to go to different tools. Jeff Schaefer wrote a blog post almost 10 years ago about different ways of creating jitter plots in Tableau. So what he does is he creates a couple of different calculations. So we have this crazy random number function that I have no idea what it does. And if you hear my dog barking in the background, apologize. So some crazy numbers, and then he uses that function in another function, right? So here's that random number. I don't really know what it does, but it works. So I'm going to throw this up on rows, and then it doesn't do anything yet. So it's table calculation. So I got to compute using order number, and then we get that randomization that we like. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to get to that. I'm pretty lazy, right? Well, I'll call it efficient. What I like to do is just is not create any of those calculations and not worry about random. I'm going to just drag order number over here and put it on rows. And that's not exactly what we want. I'm going to take the cosine of the order number. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever to do. But when we do it, boom, we get our randomization. We can use sine. You can use cosine. I do this almost every single time if I have some sort of ID that is just numeric. All right, let's move on to a different example. This is a Makeover Monday I did. It was about New Year's resolutions, and I got the data, and it was all about the percentage of people that said they wanted to say do more exercise, right? But when I got the data wasn't in percentages; it was in whole numbers, right? So we could create a calculation to divide by 100 and then change it to a percentage. Again, I mean, that's probably the right way to do, but like I said, I'm lazy. So what I'm going to do is just go to these fields, as female and male, and go to default properties, number format, and I'm going to be really lazy. Instead of doing that calculation, I'm just going to go into suffix and add a percentage, and boom, it turns us into a percentage. Not really into a percentage, but it makes it look like a percentage. In fact, if you take a value like currency here, it's not in a currency format, but I want to change it to a currency format. Watch what Tableau does. All they do is add a prefix of a $, right? So Tableau is doing the exact same thing. Other ways of using a prefix or a suffix, well, here's some data looking at country populations, 1950 and 2021. So we can see this particular country, well, they've lost about 2/3 of their population. Jordan, 25 times its population. United Arab Emirates, I can't say it, Emirates, 125 times their population. So what I'd like to do is take this ratio and just drive home that point a little bit. So I'm going to do exactly what I did, default properties, number format, and in my suffix, I'm going to add a space and an X just to make it look like it's 25 times the population. Just makes it look a little bit nicer. This is still a number. It's just got this suffix behind it for display. All right, maybe a few other things with some formatting. This is the exact same New Year's resolution data, except I visualize it in a different way. A bar going out to the right, a diverging bar chart for to the right for male responses, purple for females. And obviously these percentages are percentages of humans, so they can't be negatives. So if we want to leave this axis, how do we fix this axis to not be a negative? Well, we can right click that and format. I'm going to go to axis and we'll go to numbers. And right now it's set at a percentage, right? But if I click over to custom, what this is going to do is allow me to do a couple things. One thing we always want to remember is the number before the semicolon is a positive number. The number after a semicolon is a negative number. And the number after another semicolon is a 0, right? So if I were to set this up the way it's set up right now, we'd have positive numbers, negative numbers, and zeros. To get rid of the negative on that negative axis, all we got to do is get rid of that negative there, and it becomes the positive, right? In fact, if we want to get rid of the zeros, we can just delete that altogether. Actually, we'll put a semicolon and add a space, and that other 0 disappears. So you can do this sort of custom formatting on an axis. I'll get back to that momentarily, but let's try and replicate this concept. So this is sales versus target. So the central region has exceeded its target by 44 million or 44,000. east by 4,000, and then we're short on these. So we're short 32 and short 76. So how might we replicate this in a dashboard? Well, let me find my calculations. So we might first, we got to figure out where we're short on that target. So sales minus the target, right? And then we might take the absolute value, because if we look back at this, I don't have any negatives or positives. I just have whole numbers, and then I've got the little icon to show me up or down. So we might want to just take the absolute value of that same calculation. And then we got to create these little up-down markers, right? So if the sales minus target calculation we just created is equal to 0, then we won't use anything. But if it's greater than 0, we use up. And if it's less than 0, we use down. And then we can build this. So we'll first put, let's find where we want to put it on. Let's put this here. And then we'll put the markers on here. And then I put them in the wrong order. So let's fix that, right? And then we've recreated that that chart that we just showed here before. But truthfully, there's a whole heck of a lot easier way to do that. I can simply go to this original calculation, the first one we created, and I can change the default formatting, default number format. And if I select, let me just show you this. I'm going to first select currency, and let's change this to K. And then if I go over to custom, it'll pre-populate these custom formats. So like I said before, anything before the semicolon is a positive number. Anything after the semicolon is a negative number. You can see we've got nothing in front of this number sign, but we have a negative in front of this. So I'm just going to add some characters. I'm going to press and hold Alt and hit and type 30. That's going to give me an up arrow. I'll add a space. I'm going to get rid of this negative and go Alt 31. That'll give me a down arrow. And then if I simply drag this onto my view, I have those numbers. That allowed me to avoid two different calculations and a bunch of fiddling with my numbers. But if you want to keep it really, really simple, let's just say we have this chart already built, and instead of color coding these bars, maybe we just want a little icon out to the left. Well, if you didn't know, there's Unicode characters that already have color built into them, right? You can actually copy and paste these red and blue Unicode characters. And if I throw that out on rows, make this a little bit bigger, we've essentially created the same color code. And I can't seem to grab it. For some reason, we've essentially created that same color code just with little icons. All right, that's it for my first section. I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Ken.
All right. All right, you see Tableau okay?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to show some cool stuff with filters. So I'm going to start off with a couple of real quick little tips that you just might not be aware of. Here we have a chart showing bowling scores. Actually, Kevin's son is on here. And we've got basically a row for each date, each match date. So I might want my users to be able to filter this, right? So we'll drag date over and we'll just choose the individual dates option, select all of these for now, and show this filter, right? So now my users can select which dates they want to show. But what might be nice is if it was set up to automatically just jump to the latest match, right? So I could just see the last one in my data. This is a problem we run into all the time in Tableau. So here's a quick little way to do this that you might not be aware even exists. There's a little option at the bottom of the filter, filter the latest date. When you can see it filters to the last date in our data set. And as new data comes in, it will, and the workbook opens, it'll automatically filter to that latest date, but still your users can come back and change those dates. So cool little trick that you may not know existed. We can also use this with other types of date filters as well, right? So if we choose month and year, for example, we can set to filter to the latest value, and that will automatically filter to just April of this year. Okay, another quick tip. Here we have a stock price chart, and we've got a filter on date. So we've got a slider here, and typically with this type of chart, you're wanting to just look at periods of time, right? Maybe the last 3 months, last, year to date, last year, 5 years, something like that, right? And landing on those exact periods of time can be a little difficult with a slider like this, right? It'd be nice if we just could click a couple little buttons just like you would on any start chart that you see online. Well, there is a handy little way to do this. So if we go up to the menu on this filter and go to browse periods, it'll automatically default us to a couple of different periods, and we can just choose those to look at those different periods really quickly and easy. So just a nice little way to browse specific periods. If we change this back to a range of dates, it'll actually keep the dates that it set. And so this is going to now show the last 5 years automatically here. Okay, so let's do something a little bit more involved. Let's say I have a hex map like this one that is showing profit by state, right? And this works pretty well for my users, but I would like to give them the opportunity to see the detail and maybe even download that detail, right? So I create another workbook or another dashboard like this that has all the detailed data, and they could examine that or download it if they wanted to, right? But the problem is, in my environment, my Tableau Cloud environment, I have lots of different Superstore workbooks. And so I end up having to copy this dashboard and put it in every single workbook so people can download it. It'd be really nice if I could just create one single version of this, publish it, and then just have all my other workbooks linked to it, right? So we can do that, right? So what I've done is I've created 2 different workbooks. I've got my map workbook, and I've created this download workbook separately. But what I want to do, what I really want to be able to do is have it automatically send these filters. So anytime I change the filters, I want to have it automatically send those filters to that target download workbook when I click on it. And to jump to that target workbook, I need to use a URL action, right? So essentially, I need to find a way to pass those filters through the URL. You probably wanted to do this at some point in time, and it wasn't until just recently that I figured out how we could do this. So I've already published these, so let's jump out to the web here. So here we are on cloud. Here's my map workbook, and here's my download workbook. And the key thing we want to do is grab this URL, because that'll be sort of our starting point. So then what we'll do is we're gonna configure a URL that allows us to pass these filters. So step 1, we start with that base URL for the target sheet. You can see that here. Then we're going to add a question mark to query the start of URL query strings, right? So we just have a question mark here at the end. And then here's where the magic happens. We're going to pass the filter, and there's this handy little URL only function, filter values, which I don't think most people are aware of exists. So we basically say region equals filter values of region, and that will grab the filters from the source workbook and pass it over to the target. So here we have region, then we layer on our other filters, separating them with an ampersand. So we now have region, category, and segment here. And then finally, we use this URL in a URL action. So if we click back to our map worksheet, take a look at our actions, we have a URL open action here. Let's zoom in on this a bit, and you'll see it's triggering off of this click on this hex map. But here's the URL with those filter values in there for category, region, and segment. Let's flip over to the web and take a look at this in action. So let's filter this to say just the south and west. We'll filter the segment to just consumer. Just consumer. And then we'll filter the category to just technology. And now watch, when I click on one of these items, it will jump to that detailed download, and it passed in those filters just as I specified before. So really, really cool trick for passing filters via a URL action. Okay. So let's switch gears here. We've talked about filters, right? So one of the common problems we'll run into with filters are these order of operations types problems. So let's talk a little bit about the order of operations, then I'll share a few common scenarios, problems that you might run into, and how to fix them by bending the order of operations to our will. So the order operations for Tableau looks something like this. It starts at the top with the things that compute first. starting with extract filters, and then all the way down to the bottom, the last things we compute are these trend lines and reference lines. So this is a mix of filters. All the items on the left are filters, and then we have different types of operations on the right. So we're gonna refer back to this several times throughout the rest of this section here. But let's just talk about some of the common problems you'll run into with the order of operations. One that I see all the time is when people start working with fixed with level of detail calculations. So here we have a table showing our customers and their first order date. And the calculated field looks like this. We're fixing on the customer name and getting the minimum order date. But you might want to be able to sort of drill down a little bit further. So we've added a category here. And let's say we want to see the first order date for just furniture, right? We change the filter, but no matter what we do on here, those dates always stay the same, right? It's not changing that date for whatever reason. So let's take a look at the order of operations and see what's happening here. That category filter is a dimension filter, but we've got a fixed LOD here that's getting that first order date. And as you can see here, the fixed LOD computes before the dimension filter, right? So what's happening is it's taking that entire data set, it's finding the first order date for each customer, and only then is it then filtering by the category, right? We want to reverse that. We want that category filter to compute first, filter down to that, and then find the first order date with that in context, right? So what can we do? We can change that dimension filter to a context filter. So let's flip back. Let's right-click this category filter, add it to context. And now when we change these categories, you can see our dates are updating as we would expect. So that's a very, very common problem. I guarantee when you started working with LOD calculations that you ran into that at least once. Another kind of common problem that we see are with top end filters here. So here we're showing top 15 customers by total sales. And I'm using a top end filter on customer names. So you can see top 15 sales by sum of sales here, right? But we might want to be able to look at just certain periods of time. So we add a filter on year, and watch what happens though if we just filter down to 2021, something broke, right? Our top 15 is now a top 12, so that doesn't seem right. And these bottom ones have very small numbers. I find it very hard to believe that $271 of sales qualifies this customer as a top 15 customer. So something here is clearly not right. So again, when we run into something like that, let's take a look at the order of operations and figure out what's going on. We have a top end filter that on customer, and then we have a dimension filter on year, right? So that top end filter is computing first, and then it's filtering the year. So basically what's happening is it's looking at our entire data set. It's grabbing the top 15 customers out of all of the years, and then it's filtering by year. So essentially what's happening is there are 15, or of our 15 top customers, only 12 of them actually bought anything in 2021, which is why we only see those 12 customers, right? So what we really want to do, again, is switch this so that that year filter computes first, and then we grab the top 15 out of those. So how do we do that? Of course, we add this to context. Now, when we switch to 2021 only, we will see 15 customers and some much more reasonable numbers down there below. So those are probably the two most common problems I see with the order of operations. But let's give you a couple of little hacky things that you can do, pretty cool little tricks that we can apply. And these both relate to table calcs. So here we have a chart showing cities and states ranked by sales, right? So, and this rank here, these numeric values is a table calculation that's just doing a rank of the sum of sales. Okay. Now I live in Pennsylvania, so maybe I might want to filter down to just Pennsylvania and see how those rank. So I've got a filter on state and province, and we find Pennsylvania and we filter, and that works great. I can see Philadelphia is number 1, but sometimes I might really want to keep that original overall rank. Philadelphia, for example, overall is number 5 on this list. So what I'd like to do is keep the overall ranks, but just filter down to that particular state like this, right? So let's take a look at the order of operations and see what we're dealing with. Well, we have a dimension filter on the state, right? And then we have a table calc doing the rank. And the dimension filters compute first, right? So that's what's causing it to re-rank those just within Philadelphia or within Pennsylvania. So our only real option for changing this around is to somehow find a way to make that dimension filter a table calc filter. So here's a cool little trick that I love for doing this. If we create a calculated field that uses lookup is a table calc, right? And it basically just goes forward or backward in our data, right? Based on this second parameter, which is an offset. So by making the offset 0, we're not going forward or backward, essentially just returning the state province as is, but it's going to be a table calc. And when we use it as a filter, it becomes a table calc filter, which computes after table calculations. So let's use this as our filter instead. We'll show this filter. Let's change this to single value. And now watch what happens when we click Pennsylvania. It maintains that original rank. So this is a niche use case, not something you're going to run into every time, but you'll be happy to have this trick when you inevitably do need to do something like this. Okay, one more thing with table calculations. I love to create these bands, these big angry numbers that give you a quick picture of where we are on some metric. So this band actually shows the sales growth from 2022 to 2023. So we could actually create this pretty easily. So we might start off by creating it like this with year on our view, our sales. And then what we've done is created a quick table calculation on sales to do the percent difference, right? So it's finding the percent difference between these two sales values. So to get to just that band, I need to just isolate this 30 number, right? So if I think through how I might do that, well, I need to get rid of this 2022 row. I might filter down to 2022, but as soon as we filter to 2022, the 30 disappears because it can't find that percent difference when that data isn't available to it, right? Okay. So once again, let's take a look at our order of operations. That filter on the year is a dimension filter, but that percent difference is a table calculation. If we can find a way to make that dimension filter a table calc filter, then we can do that filtering after the table calc. So we could have do something very similar to what we did the last time, but let's try something a little bit different. And we're going to introduce this last function. So last is a table calc as well. And it basically just counts the number of rows from the last one in the row. So this last row here would be 0. This one will be 1. There's also opposite of this, which is first, which count from the beginning. So we're just saying if last is 0, this row here, then true, else false. We're going to use this as a filter, a table calc filter. Set that to true. And now it hides the 2022, but we can still see that number because this table calc filter computes after the table calculation, right? Now what we'll do is we'll right click and hide the header for the measure names, hide the header for the year. We'll change our filter to get rid of sales. We will do entire view and then increase the size of that. And boom, we have this beautiful band by tricking the order of operations to do our bidding for us. And with that, I am all done. I'm going to pass back over to Kevin.
All right, thanks, Ken. Share. All right, hopefully you see Tableau. Ken, you see Tableau?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
All right, no problem. All right, I'm going to finish this off just with some random cool tips, right? So I showed this visualization before where I was looking at New Year's resolutions by percentage, and there's male and female. And how I've built this is a circle mark to show male and female, and then I've just got a line back here. So this line is just this big wide line. But what I'd really like to do is make this line a little bit bigger. If you remember before, I sort of encompassed these circles. So if I got a size on the line, I can't make it any bigger. So I can, in fact, make it bigger. If I put average of 1 here on detail, and then I slide that over to size, watch what happens to this line. Boom, it becomes humongous. And now I can adjust it to be exactly what I want, something maybe like that. You may not know that there's actually ways to put multiple colors on the color card. So if we look at assigning colors here, maybe I want to put, that is not at all what I want. I want this one. Maybe I want to look at returns. So the red ones are the returned orders. And maybe at the same time, I want to look at segment. But if I drop segment on the color, it replaces returned. So I'll show you that again. Segments on color. If I put returned on color, it replaces segment. So there's 3 different ways that you can actually do both. First is I can actually drag segment onto detail, and then I can click on this little thing here and change it to color. And now I have both returned and segment on color. The blues being the non-returns, the oranges being the yes returns, and then sliced by the different segments. So there's a couple other ways you can do that. I can actually press and hold the shift button and drag both of them at the exact same time. Boom, you get the same exact result. Another way is you can put one on color, and then you can start to drag this and then press and hold the shift key, and then boom, you can drop that on there. So to get the 2 different colors on there. So 3 different ways to add multiple colors to your color field in a chart. I have this bowling dashboard for my son's bowling team, and I've got this parameter to where I can highlight a bowler in the red or blue, but for some reason my parameter got all jacked up and there's no values in here. So I could go and just type all the values out, or I could just grab them. I actually have them in a spreadsheet, so I can just grab them. And the natural thing to do is just copy that, and I'll just paste it right here where it says click to add, right? So boom. And then unfortunately, it's put all these different kids in one value, one cell. So let's just remove the selected. If you want to copy and paste a list into parameter, you actually have to click out here in this space and then just paste, and randomly it goes in there. So copy paste. I went through this like 10 times trying to figure out how to do this, and it's really simple. Just click outside of the space where it says click to add. Let's assume we have a tooltip. All right, this is a visual I made years ago. And if we look at like this tooltip, we see these sort of different sections of the tooltip, but I really hate how the starting points of the numbers themselves are very random. And that's because I have that sort of line separating them so that the tab is in different spots. So in fact, to kind of drive this home, we can zoom in here and you can see where we have these different starting points for a number. So I'd love to fix that. So we can, in fact, fix that. First thing to know is if you want to edit a tooltip, you don't have to go to the sheet itself. All you got to do is go to Worksheet Tooltip, and it'll bring it up. And then what I can do, if we make this bigger, I'm just going to hit Control-A to select everything. And then we actually have this little thing that you see in Word a lot. So let's just drag that out to the right. I think that would be far enough. And now if we hover over this, we have the same starting point for each one of those. So let me, again, show this. This is the original. This is the new. And let's just show the different starting points and that consistent starting point for this tooltip. Just makes everything a lot cleaner and easier to read for your end users. All right, in this particular use case, I've kind of got these 3 different sheets that are just looking at certain metrics about my business, right? And if we look at in detail, if we look at the layout containers, you'll see I've got something weird going on. I've actually got this is sitting in its own container by itself. So there's only one sheet inside that container. So that container is kind of useless. And I've done this in 3 different places. And if you use containers, you know they're tricky at times. So it's really common that you end up with containers you don't want. To kind of really make this a little clearer, I've got this color coding. So we have this outer container, then we have these kind of unnecessary containers, these gray ones, and then we have one sheet within each of them. Cool little thing that you can do is if you actually put your cursor, and you see my cursor is a single cursor here. If I put my cursor over the edge, it turns into a double cursor. If I then right click, we have this option that who knew existed of combine layout containers. If I do it again over here, right click combine layout containers, what you'll see is we've essentially wiped out that whole group of unnecessary containers. And we just have the one horizontal container with three sheets inside of it. All right, and the final tip, one of my favorite things you can do is all about sizing these different, the sizing in different sheets. So let's go to this page sheet. It's 2 different sheets here. And let's say I just think this circle is too big. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit. And then I want to do the same thing to this one. So let's bring this down a little bit. And I can pretty much guarantee every time you try this, you will never get them to be the right size, the same size. The only way you can ever get them to be the same size is if they snap into this sort of 25%, 50%. But that's not always the case. So no matter how hard I try, I'll bet you there's always one's going to be larger than the other. So the greatest little trick, if we go into web edit and then we web edit this and we go to the pay sheet, if we go to the size, instead of a slider, we can do a slider, but we can also just type in a percentage. Let's make that 35%. Let's make this 35%. And now we have the exact same size in multiple sheets. I did this for a client recently. I could not get the sizing the same, so I just went in and did it in web edit. And that's all we have for you today. Again, this is being recorded. It'll be shared after the conference. We'll be on demand on Salesforce Plus. That's free. All you got to do is register. You might already have an account. And all the content that we have shown you here today is at flerlagetwins.com/coolstuff2024. And that QR code will get you to that link as well. We're talking on Tuesday. This is conference presentation, but just wanted to say thank you and happy to take any questions if we have time.
Thanks, guys. I was taking notes. I know you said not to, but I couldn't help myself. We did have a question in the chat. And there were some replies. Let's see, did that get resolved?
Yeah, but we can address that live if needed. So the question was, is there a limit to how many filter items can come across in that filter values technique for passing through URL action? So I think the question was like, if this segment, for example, had 100 or 1,000 items, is there a limit? I'm not aware of any limit on that, right? I think no matter what the number are, it should be fine. One limit to be aware of, though, is the length of the URL, right? So if you are passing 100 different filters, which please don't try to do that. If you have 100 different filters on a dashboard, I'd be very concerned. But that's the kind of thing that will make the URL grow, and browsers do have limits on the length of the URL, right? So that is something to be aware of. The lowest limit I've seen is 2,048 characters, but I've seen some that are up to 5,000-6,000 characters, right? So try to keep your URLs below 2048, and that should be doable with this technique.
I do see somebody asking me to show again that removing the containers. I can do that if you want. I just have to back up my my workbook.
Go for it.
Let me do that right now. So in this workbook, again, if we look at the layout containers here, we can see that we have a container. We have one sheet inside a container, one sheet inside a container. Like really, these dark gray containers are completely useless. So if you go to the spot where containers meet, you can see this little double arrow. So we've got a cursor, we got a single arrow, and then we have this sort of double arrow. If you right click there, and it says combine. It actually doesn't say remove combine. I may have said that, but it actually says combine layout containers. So it actually take those two containers that are right next to each other and combine them. And then we can do the same thing with this one and combine them. And essentially what that's doing is eliminating that whole section of unnecessary containers. I don't know how often that'll be handy. I just thought it was super cool. I'd never seen it before until someone had shared it recently.
We can do a bonus tip real quick here too, Kev. If you go back, if you undo that, I'm going to try this on the fly. I've never done this before. So okay. if you right click on one of those gray containers there,
right click.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, forget it. Oh no, remove container. Try it again. Remove container. Remove container at the top.
Remove container.
So there's a way, there's this remove container option as well that basically does the same sort of thing. You're just removing that redundant container without really impacting the dashboard itself.
Nice. Any other questions?
I'm just curious, like, how do you come by these tips? How did you choose which ones to share with us today?
I mean, well, first thing, we had thanked a bunch of people before we started. So much of this is, a lot of these are our own tips that we just sort of ran across because we're addicted to Tableau, and we're not only doing this all day at work, but we're also doing it, in our spare time. And also, part of our jobs at Moxie Analytics is helping people with complex problems. So we have to kind of figure this stuff out, right? So a lot of stuff is our content. Some of it, like that combined layout containers, I saw that from, Sean Davis. And we tend to see a lot of that because we're just so connected to the community. I'm always on Twitter, always on LinkedIn, always kind of keeping track of what people are doing. I think, Ken and I always talk about how powerful the community is for learning and growing. So a lot of the tips that you saw, like that combined containers, was something I just saw from somebody else. I thought was super cool. Useful or not, I don't know, but we just thought it was super cool.
Yeah, and I'll add that, when we start to put together this presentation at the beginning of every year, it's about twice as much content as we can actually do, right? Because we try to throw everything in there and we end up having to cut. So there's all kinds of hard decisions about what to include and what not. Fortunately, this year they offered us an opportunity to do some bonus tips during a live interview at the conference. So that'll be on Salesforce Plus, where we'll show 3 tips that I was sad to cut from my side that we.
They're good tips too. I don't know how they didn't make the cut.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys. We are going to switch over to, unless there was another question. We're going to switch over to our networking section. So if whoever wants to stick around, we'll have some breakout rooms, and we can have a quick chat about.
I'll interject, Josh. I know that both Ken and I do have to run to other meetings, but thank you all for having us. We really appreciate it. Hope to see many of you in San Diego here in a couple of days. So
thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, guys. So we're going to take a minute to introduce yourselves, and then what did you like about the presentation? Are there any that you're going to be using? And we'll take maybe 5 minutes or so and have a chat. Okay, let's see if I get the number of rooms right here. All right, created the rooms. You should be able to click join now to hop into a room. Well, got about 10 minutes left. Anything else that you guys thought was interesting that you wanted to bring up? Any announcements? Yeah, feel free to. We were dropping LinkedIn's over in the other one, then we got kicked out. I didn't see any kind of warning either. That's the other thing that I think is missing.
There was a little pop-up window on my screen that said breakout ending in 30 seconds. And then it just automatically popped me back into the main room. So it might be different if you're the host.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If someone is willing to, or I don't know if we can start a Slack channel for those who are attending the conference, if we want to like rate the different, or not rate, but recommend different sessions you're in. All the sessions are available after the conference, right, for viewing. So maybe you want to do a group think on which sessions are like very recommended, very worthwhile for this group, marketing and market research.
I have a question. This marketing and market research, Doug, this is probably my second session I've attended. Is this geared towards people who are in the marketing space, or is it to do with like social media marketing for Salesforce and Tableau?
We haven't gotten to that level of specificity, I would say.
No, I understand his question. Our goal is not to do marketing for Salesforce Tableau, right? In this, it's for professionals who work in marketing related fields or market research fields, right?
You know why? And fantastic, Sharon. The reason why I asked it. I do get it that tugs are independent from Salesforce. They don't push down an agenda. But the reason why, because I wanted to understand, I have a few friends who are, I wouldn't call them friends, but contacts who are much younger than me, are in their early 20s and are content creators. And they want to, and I don't know how to answer it to them. So I bring this question to this learned crowd here. Is there any way we could tap in Tableau to build products or maybe a solution that they could use to know more about how their posts on social media are doing? How much interest is it driving, and do some kind of analytics around it?
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, I think one like direct way to maybe also talk to these people is to share how important images are, right, in social media content, and data visualizations can be very engaging and increase engagement, right, on these posts. So how to leverage Tableau to create engaging visuals for content might be an area of interest for them. But I like your idea as well, how to measure and monitor your social media performance as well, right?
Yes, I want to seed this question with our learned crowd, and some of you are going to TC. Maybe you can come back with this learned with a better answer to this, because I'm trying to do something in my own cave and build something, and I thought that I don't want to hold this idea to my chest, but leave it out there to the universe so that we can find an answer, and then the data farm can benefit from it.
Yeah, it's great. Love it.
I just dropped a link to our Slack if the QR code's not working. If any of you, I think most of you are in our Slack. We have the diehards who are remaining with us still right now. So while we're here, any other ideas or thoughts for future meetings? We don't have any. I guess we've kind of talked about some ideas, but nothing set in stone. But we're open to, if you guys any other topics that you're interested in learning about. Happy to take any suggestions.
Ojo, would you be willing to present and share your tool?
It's still in the works. I'm finishing it up, but 100%, I would like to present something I built some time back with my own LinkedIn data. That's ready, but I have to polish and shine it. It's on my Tableau public, but it's I'm too embarrassed to share it right now. But if you guys are so grateful to give me some talk time, I'll be more than happy to. I'm really looking to grab as many speaking assignments I can get.
Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have our next date on the calendar yet, but we generally try to run one a quarter. So sometime in the next 3 months or so.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. I will, we are connected, so you let me know if I have to go through the channel of adding. I did through the Salesforce Tug Leaders group add myself to be picked up as a speaker, but then this is much more personal and direct. So more than happy to. Thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, we can connect. That'll be easy.
Cool. Well, if you guys think of any other topics you're interested in, or you have questions for us, you can always message us on the Slack. Other than that, that's all we have today. So thank you all for joining, and see many of you at Tableau Conference. Otherwise, catch you at our next meeting.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks
for hosting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here.
See you.